people here, but I'm so pleased to see who is here.
Wouldn't that bother you?
Thank you for coming. I'm gonna get our news crews back there all set in to record this. You're
See where you can move down. I'm gonna be filming you
On
eating.
the board here today.
Yeah, be good.
Sahara, who is our president, was here this morning. She spent about 3 hours here and did really well. She has a tour behind her here, and after a while she starts getting dizzy, and with all of our commotion, she has to go home. So she did, and she was very disappointed that she couldn't escape her to hear Nelda. But we would like to welcome you and hope you'll eat some of our goodies, and the restrooms around the corner down that hallway if you need it. I would like to ask my better half, when he gets done chewing, if he would like to lead us in the flag salute.
Got me with the brown. Okay, please begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We didn't have a program in September. We took a day off for Labor Day. And Sahara is currently working on a speaker for us the first Saturday of November. And we aren't sure who that is yet, but we'll be putting that out online and in the newspaper and on Facebook. As I said, we have a skeleton crew. We sure have fun, and we do a lot. But anybody's welcome to come help us volunteer. We have a multitude of jobs. I'm a computer idiot, so we need any computer help we can get, at least to help me. And we do have a couple people that are helping us out with that as we speak. I'd like to introduce Nelda. I've known her on and off for years. She used to interview me on occasion when I was doing silly things like fighting fire. She was with the Redlands Yucaipa for 22 and a half years. And that strikes a chord with me because when my parents moved here in the 40s, their first friends were Frank and Bill Moore. And we always look at them very fondly, and their dad, of course, is the one that started that paper. So Nelda, in the 60s, I believe, she'll tell you about it, took on a big thing with her husband, Monty. Where are you? There he is. And several other people to help hopefully get a museum for Redlands. She's going to discuss that today, and we'll throw in a few tidbits from our museum to compare when she asks me. I'll sit down and shut my mouth so she can speak. I'd like to welcome Nelda Stuck.
Lenore, thank you very much for inviting me. And I like starting with the Pledge of Allegiance. It makes it kind of an official meeting when you do that, so thank you on that. Lenore called me a month ago, and it sounded like she was kind of desperate for a program as a fill-in, and she's been so kind and helpful in the past. I said, I can do this, and also with COVID, I hadn't been out speaking very much to groups, and so I thought, well, I'll get back in the practice and see what we can share here today. And we kind of, I think, discussed that we would talk about what we're trying to do in Redlands and what you have been successful doing here in Yucaipa, and I've learned from you, and maybe we could share some good ideas. So I'm especially glad to have two friends from Redlands here today. Bernice Foster is my quilting buddy. I learned from her. She and I are working on quilts, and her husband Scott is a retired attorney. And then my good friends Mary and Walter Mook, who are Yucaipa residents, and they're valued community people for you here in Yucaipa because, well, Walter was president of our Horticulture Society in Redlands and doing a lot for us there. Then he met Mary and moved here, and Mary has also been helping with keeping Yucaipa beautiful with flowers, and her home has been open on tour, and the gardens have been open 2 or 3 times on tour. So I want you to value them as residents here too. So thanks for Thanks for coming. And the thing was, I'm discovering that this museum is new to them. And so here was an opportunity to bring people up here. We don't get enough people in our museums, and anything that any of us can do to bring people into museums, I think we should do it, so. I understand the person you wanted to speak here was going to talk on preserving photos. You mentioned that you had hoped to get a speaker on that. And you know, I'm real interested in that subject too, so I would like to hear her because I've asked Monty to document the fact that I'm here today, and he's got his camera, and you're gonna hear more about Monty later. Could not do that job without him. But what do you do? Bernice has her, I see your phones out here, you have all these pictures on phones. How are museums and heritage rooms going to preserve these photos? This is what worries me. Or, for instance, our emails. It's not like you've written a thank you letter to somebody, you just email them quickly and said, thank you for doing this and this and this. Well, we have no record of that kind of thing. So how is that going to work? And I just want to take a minute because I'm really bugs on photos. During COVID and before that, I took every family photo and put every name on the back that I possibly could get. So I feel when you die, there's a few things you want done, and that's one thing I wanted to do. So for 20 years, I was taking all these photos for the Redlands Daily Facts, and we were doing it mostly in black and white, and I brought my book to show you. The Movers and Shakers in Redlands, and we did this, I think, in 2000, and it's black and white, so it wasn't that costly to print. And then I think we ran 300 or 400 copies of it and used it as a fundraiser for our museum. So we gave all the copies to the museum, and you know, it's interesting to see Jack Brown is not with us now. Here's Curtis Allen, our band director, not with us, and the mayor of San Bernardino, Pat Morris. So these are really fun pictures that I was able to take. But the thing is, I've got, what do you do with the snapshots that I have at home? So I put them in 3-inch binders. There's 6 to a page, you know, you flip them over. I don't know archival paper or not, but they've got the names on the back of them. Okay, and I said, I have 12 of these albums, these 3-inch thick things. They're heavy. I was gonna bring one today, but I thought too much to bring. So I thought, how can I possibly turn these over to our heritage room in Redlands at the Smiley Library? Even though they've got the names on the back, how would they ever find the president of the university in all this massive 3,000 photos? There's what there are. So I went through book A, book B, book C, and put a page number on every one. So there's 6 lots. So I would take his name and I'd say he's on book A, number 1, or book J, page 63. So that then I put in Excel on the computer and ran so that they can look up his name, find out what book it is and what page, and they can find a picture of him if they want to 100 years from now. So this is a goal. I don't know how you do it, but this is what I'm trying to do. So enough on the photography. Okay, I love Redlands, and we didn't actually get there to 69. You said that we started this museum in 60, but it's a little bit later than that. But we moved there first in 69 and lived here in Redlands for 3 years, and I was a stay-at-home mom. But we knew we wanted to come back to Redlands because my husband's military service, and we were able to do that. So we came back 10 years later, and that is when I got involved. I got a job within about 3 days with the Daily Facts. I finally was in my permanent home. We were retired here, and I was going to be my journalist that I wanted to be. Luckily, I replaced Josephine Ray, who had been there 30 years, and the city editor said, how am I ever going to replace this woman? And I showed up, and he was lucky, because I love Redlands. And because our bicentennial was 1988, I got involved in a lot of rah-rah Redlands things. So that's why I really love Redlands. And I didn't bring the quilt today, but Bernice has seen this, but I thought I'd pass it around. My latest quilt, and I've done 25 Redlands quilts, because everybody does everything else, and I think, well, I'll do Redlands, is the slogans of Redlands. So if I said to you, name me one slogan, say of Yucaipa, what Yucaipa slogan do you have? Do you have any? You don't hear anybody say anything? Can you name any of Redlands? Probably not.
The city of
Without vision, the people perish.
Very good, it's on the bowl. Without vision, a people perish, okay? Yeah.
I was told we have a city salute that's like this.
No, stop it.
Oh, but that's just for Yucaipa?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
But you're almost gone now.
Oh, that's a way for the flies. Oh, wow, okay.
I did read something just this morning, and someone up north said, years ago, I should know, Paulina de la Fuse, the Indian lady, that Native American, she said, Yucaipa is the Hood River of this area, and I about fell out of my chair. I just read that, because it was lush once.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's all.
Well, it gives you something to think about. So I ended up with 18, I'm gonna pass this around. Even Redlanders don't really know them all, but Octomali Gazali Gazump is the University of Redlands thing, and so they're somewhat known in Redlands, so I'll pass it around. Okay, so I wanted to throw out another question to you, as I was telling my friends what I said to Bernice when we were driving up here. I said, what do you think Yucaipa is known for, and what do you think you're going to see in this museum? Like if you think about Redlands, we think about the orange growing. We think about the community hospital, which was a very strong element in our city life. We think about famous families of Redlands, and I see you've got over here at least counties. I didn't get around to everything else. Your famous families and that sort of thing. But I was telling Bernice and Scott that to me the memorable thing about this museum is the spider lady, and my husband is a bombardier. That's what his training was in the Air Force, so he knows about these bomb sites and the spider webs and all. So it's interesting. So I'm challenging you to think, do you visit other museums? And you all should. Wherever you go to another town, you should visit them. And what do you think you come away with? I always say to Monty, well, what was the favorite thing that you saw in this museum? And so I'm challenging you to think about it, and your own museum, what it is, if you have to sell the idea of coming to this museum to your new members who live in Yucaipa, what would you get them excited about seeing? So it's something to think about. We, in June, went to Santa Barbara. We don't get there very often, but the granddaughter graduated from there. So, big family reunion. And since we don't drive freeways very much anymore, we were going through Pasadena, and Bernice, maybe you told me about it, a big quilt show on there. So seeing a new museum and seeing a quilt show was something that we want to do. So I called ahead to the woman in charge, and she knew we were coming, and it's always good to visit with the head person at the museum. And so she gave us a couple-hour tour on our way to Santa Barbara. And I wanted to say that we did 5 gardens and museums, actually 3 museums and 2 major gardens, very expensive kind of gardens, in 5 days. So the first one was the Pasadena Museum, and I just want to share this with you. The quilts were beautiful, and they were trying to get up and running after COVID, and it's been interesting to talk to Lenore to see what you did during COVID. And I'll say this, and Monty, you and I haven't discussed this, but I think we broke ground on the Redlands Museum January 2020, that was when, in March, COVID was hitting. So here we were building this thing. We didn't have to worry about bringing anybody in during COVID. So 21, sorry, okay, because we've been at it 2.5 years, that's right. I think of you trying to keep this museum open because the woman in the Pasadena History Museum had been there 20 years, and a very wonderful tour that we had there. But she was very open with us, the fact that she lost docents, they lost membership, they lost board members, they lost money coming in, city wasn't having meetings because they were using the facility for meetings. She admitted she's having to start over, literally, and I kind of have a sense that you're struggling to get a couple of people in here. And the one thing that she said, which I've been trying to say for 20 years for stuff for our Redlands Museum, and this woman said, you in Redlands need to know that in your museum, you can only put 10% of your space for a permanent Redlands exhibit. only 10% of what you're going to be, we're now planning what's going inside the museum. Because you've got to be changing your exhibits all the time or you're not gonna get people in. So I realize this is not exactly what you do here in Yucaipa, but it's something to think about. What new things can you rotate so that you will bring people in? So that was kind of a shocking thing for me to say, because I've been collecting wonderful things like you are, and I think, oh, they're not gonna show us. So we have to think what we want to bring in exhibits from the outside too. So. One of the museums we visited in Santa Barbara was I think it's called El Cielo. That's the Reagan Ranch. He spent almost a total year of his 8 years in the presidency at that ranch. Off and on, he'd be back and forth. I thought that was pretty good. I went out of 8 years. So he loved that ranch. It's just above Santa Barbara. So there's this fantastic museum there showing it all. And what was interesting, that I remember out of everything, because I quizzed Monty, I said, well, what was most memorable about all these museums you visit? What I remember was, they had, everything is high tech with TV screens and all. So you can, if you're not interested in one subject of his life, you can move on to another. And they had his books, 10 books that he read from when he was up there. And one of them was, what's our guy that, the Ice of the World, the Harold Bellwright, thank you. He has another book called The Printer of Odell, is another one of his. He's a fantastic novelist, okay? Sure enough, there was that book right there that Reagan was reading, and you pulled the book out, and it triggered the television screen to tell you what the book was, what that one book was about. So that was great to tie it back to a Redlands person that I thought so. So you think about, well, what is somebody gonna take away from your museum and remember when you've been? One of our goals in life, and I don't know what you collect, everybody collects something, is presidential museums and libraries. And as we've traveled, especially our military travels, I think we've seen them all, some of them a couple times. And so I say to Monty, well, what do you remember most about this presidential museum? And the one, of course, that they're not finished yet is Obama's in Chicago. So I actually would love to fly to Chicago just to see that museum, because we've really tried to see them all. They're really a wonderful way to history. And so I said, well, what's your favorite museum? And mine, I think, was the Truman Museum in Missouri, because Truman had so much going for him in office. I mean, you could hardly cover it in a museum. He was doing so much after he, took over for Roosevelt. Jimmy Carter's museum is the least favorite because he was only in office 4 years and there wasn't that much, and he was fighting to get the Iran people back the whole time before Reagan took over and all. Anyway, Monty was saying the favorite thing about the Truman Museum was the sign, "The buck stops here." Yeah. He had it on his desk and it was there. And I think in the Kennedy Museum, whether it was the real one, I don't know, or whether it was a replica, but remember when he was being rescued from that PT boat, he sent a coconut that he carved, "Come save us," or whatever. Well, I think that was the real one, and I don't think they had redone another one, but those are memorable things. I remember the first time we were at the JFK Museum there was nothing about Jackie in that museum. I couldn't imagine, all her wonderful clothes, all of this. So the second time we were there, they had rectified the problem and there was a lot there on Jackie, but she was a large part of what he was doing, and so I thought they left her out. Here's a whole. So I was thinking what I could share with you, and I'm trying to look at my time too. You're good. When I was at the Facts, did 62 special personal columns. We had to do one every 6 weeks because there were 6 reporters and we all knew when our week was coming up that we had to do it. So I thought, some years later, I thought, I'd like to save those columns. So I had paper clippings of some of them. Some of them I was missing, so I went to the Smiley Library and looked them up, found what they were, and typed them all up. And this is the only copy I have of it. But I knew I had written an article on the fact that Redlands needed a museum. So I looked it up here, and I want to read just a little bit because I think it helps get us into the subject of we didn't have a museum and what we're gonna do about it, because, you had this going a long time before we ever got ours. Okay, I said, the bottom line, I started out, is that our museum needs and deserves a Redlands Historical Museum. I'm making a plea for consideration of and planning for one now because I simply want to see, want such a Redlands Historical Museum to get a foothold in the running on the current wish list of our town. And I had forgotten all of this, and I'm sure your own Yucaipa, which I'm gonna stop here and say that when we did our visits to museums, so Monty and I could help urge this project on. I believe the Yucaipa, this museum, and your fire, this not here, because the shells were in here, but the fire house we went first, and Jean Hinckley was the one that showed us around there. So we're gathering all these facts. So trying to interest Redlands. So here is what we were up against. The Redlands community, like a 100-year-old house, needs some upkeep. The Salvation Army, not long ago, replaced their building. Jane Hilson of the Friends of Prospect Park just led the successful complete renovation of the 100-year-old carriage house in Prospect Park, and if you haven't been up there, that's a nice place to rent. Work is well underway on the $825,000 expansion of the Watchhorn Lincoln Shrine. They were putting the wings on. AK Smiling Public Library turns 100 this coming year when fundraising will begin for the $135,000 needed to rebuild the library's landmark tower. I can't believe they built that tower for $135,000. It was really something. And they had dismantled the original tower because they were afraid of earthquakes. Proponents of the renovation of Redlands High School's Clock Auditorium will soon announce their plans, and a major fundraising campaign is set to begin early this fall for the $4 million revamping of the University of Redlands Memorial Chapel. So we had in Redlands all these things that needed money. Who was ever gonna think about any money for a museum? So that was what I was thinking about in here. And I also pointed out, and I listed a whole bunch of Kiwani and Redlands and churches, and everybody was trying to build their endowment foundation. So every group in town was asking for money. How could we ever get one for the museum? So enough on that. But then later, 2 years later, I wrote another column. And this one was interesting because by that time, and this is about 97 to 99, Monty and I went around to all these museums that we could, we started with the fire one, and then I'm sure we got here. So I thought it was kind of interesting. How many of you actually go to other museums and get ideas in other cities when you're there? Because it's a challenge to do it.
We go just to be nosy, because I like old stuff.
Do you take a group of you? Sometimes our board from our museum, we've done that 4 or 5 times.
That's a good idea.
So, anyway, I was refreshing my mind of where we had actually gone. And we started actually with, do you know the Heritage home in Riverside? That it's like a Kimberly Crest. It's a heritage home. So I'd never seen it, and we went down there and we saw that on Mission in Avenue. Next, here it is. We visited with Jean Hinckley at the Yucaipa Historical Museum, a former California Department of Forestry lodging, which the Yucaipa Historical Society, I should have said Yucaipa Valley Historical Society, shouldn't I have missed it, converted to their very crowded and fascinating museum, working closely now with the city. So that's the point that I was trying to tell Redlands readers, they are working with the city. That's what we need to do. Okay, then we went to the Oakland Schoolhouse where Lucille Broder's daughter, Blackie Wilshire, actually she was our guide that day. So that was the next one we went to. Then we went to the San Bernardino County Medical Society Museum, which was in the Cooley Ranch area, and they've moved that several times, but it had all the medical instruments, and I remember being impressed with the polio pill that that was historic, and we lived through that, so I was interested in that, salt polio box. Then we went to the Colton Historical Museum. You've been down there. Well, that's an enviable place because they had a Carnegie Library, which the city donated, to them. So they got their museum because the city donated that library. So that was something to drool over that they got there so easy. Then the next one that we enjoyed a lot was City of Rialto has a museum. It's the converted church. And they had, it takes one or two people who are really gung-ho about these museums to know people who are gonna give those museums to you. So that was a fun one to visit. And they have a lot of things out just like you do. Those are the kind of fun museums I enjoy. Then we went to Whittier, El Monte, and Temecula. Now, in Whittier, interesting thing there was they bought the utilities building. I think they paid $215,000 for it. So we were interested in what Redlands had to do to get a facility, and sometimes you had to outright earn the money and buy it. So that's what Whittier did. Then El Monte was one of my favorite because it was the cleanest museum. You could eat off the floor in that museum. It was spotless. And again, they had given the library, when they built a bigger library, they gave this for the museum. So that was very interesting. And then the last one I want to mention is Temecula. Well, Temecula was kind of, in my eyes, like Yucaipa. But I should say, let me first say about Temecula, a growing area. You know, they had all these new people coming in there, and they got the city to, I think, put up $1 million, and they built a brand new museum, and it was really nice. And so the ranching and Earl Stanley Gardner, the mystery writer, lived in that area. So these are some of the things that they were trying to show in their museum. And again, envious of the city giving them this money to do that. Which brings me to Yucaipa, because during this time, covering the arts, I would see what Yucaipa was trying to do, and all these new people were coming in, new housing, new money. Yucaipa had money. You had money to do what you wanted to do. So you built this wonderful performing arts center that we come up from Redlands to attend some of these things. We worked hard for a performing arts center in Redlands and never did get it. Several people were working hard. They wanted to convert the Fox Theater and different things. But Yucaipa got it, and I thought, boy, is this going to be in competition with our Redlands Bowl? Because cities are competing with each other, and yet we're learning from each other. And your new city offices are to die for. They're so modern and beautiful. And of course, we have old buildings in Redlands. We now have the big tower. But then you've got your regional park at the back door. Yucaipa had it made, I thought, as far as money coming in, that Redlands really was working with everybody after the money. That we were working on that. So I wanted to say something about Claire Marie Peters. I know I always called her Claire Marie. I don't know if you call her Marie or Claire or whatever, but she was one of the guides when we came up here. And I want to tell you that when Monty and I visited all these museums to get ideas of what we could do in Redlands, we said, okay, do you own the things you're putting in the museum? Does the city own the building? How does the city support you? Do you have a paid director? Do you have paid members? How much is your membership? How many members do you have? Do you have a good board? How many are on your board? All of these kind of questions. Do you have certain hours you're open? Do you charge to run your museum? That sort of thing. And so, of course, Claire Marie Peters got my interview. When I talked to these people, it's an interview. And I remember her saying very strongly to me, Nelda, you are building your museum for the city of Redlands. You need to get your city involved in what you're doing. I mean, there was no ways or means about this thing. So I went back to Redlands and I said, well, Claire says we should be working our city better than we're doing. So it was kind of fun to know her then.
How did you make that happen?
I'll get to it, okay? Okay. Okay, and so of course, the Mousley shells were in here, and then just these. City owns this building now, or
The county.
the county owns it, and I know it can be a little bit.
It's a patchwork, just like your quilts. It's a crazy patchwork.
Okay. And then the fire station is owned by the city. So you're working with the city and the county to make this happen.
And then the Adobe, we are involved in all three, and now you know what's happening with the Adobe, but we
think the Conservancy, Redlands Conservancy, is going to take over the Adobe, which is, as you say, the oldest house in the county.
Yes.
Isn't the oldest adobe house.
Oldest building in the county.
We say we've got the oldest brick building in the county,
Yes.
the Barton House, yeah, so. Anyway, each one of these museums works different. In our own case, we don't own a thing that's going in that museum. Smiley Library owns it, and that's why we're getting started with it, because for 100, and now it's 125 years, it's been stored in the basement of Smiley Library, and what good does that help the city residents if they don't understand the history, because it wasn't really being showed. So that was what Liz Beglin and I wanted to do. We wanted to get the stuff out of the basement and have a place. So we started in, and I have to tell you that we got our 501c3 about year 2000. So Monty and I had been working 2 years before by visiting and photographing all these museums. Then we brought him back. He did a slideshow. We didn't have PowerPoint then, it was slideshows. And he went around to every group in town that we could show it to and say, here's what other cities are doing. Redlands needs to do this. Okay, so that was over a 2-year period. Then Liz got going on it, and she says, we need to get Larry Burgess and the library board on board. So we sat down in the office and didn't have any trouble there. They could see we were 2 women out there trying to get this thing going. And that worked. And then Liz says, we need to go before a city council and get them behind us. So we did that, and they said, yep, we're for you, and you can probably have old City Hall, right across the street. But the police are in there now, and you're gonna have to wait till they get out, because we need to build our court system before you can have that building. So we started looking at storefronts. Could we put up a display in a storefront or whatever? And so we went through 4 other buildings before we finally got our own building. The first one, when we could see that we weren't getting that old City Hall, we said, what can we do? So one of them was the packing house. It was behind the Sizzler restaurant there, and it's now being renovated into one of these food courts. It's taking them forever. I don't see how Redlands can afford one more food restaurant in town. It's just amazing how many are being built. So, but the city said, no, you can't have that building because it needs to be a commercial building that's gonna bring in tax money. And it was right behind the Santa Fe station. It would have been very nice. And it was right behind the former Sizzler restaurant, right in there. And it was big space. You have a wide open space here. This is nice. So then we looked at the safety hall. Now, that's the one opposite the mall, was one of the early courthouses of the city councils of Redlands. But it was built as a fire and police office. So little offices, the policeman could sit in, interview the crime guy in these little rooms, and we wanted a big space. So for one whole week, the United States Post Office there in Brookside was, we thought, going to be for sale. Clara Mayton was very helpful trying to get that building for us, and it's immensely open, upstairs and downstairs. It would have been really neat, right there next to the library and all. But they haven't sold it since, although I'm suspicious because I see them cleaning it up and doing things these days, so who knows what's going to happen. I'd hate to lose that downtown post office. It was really great. So just at that time, the facts with this disintegrating newspaper situation said, we don't need this big building anymore, we'll put it up for sale. So they did, and Clara May down in Newport, where her home was also in Newport, somehow heard about it down there. And she quickly got with us and she says, is this a building that if I get it, help you get it, it would work? Well, it would work, it really would. And so she was always right in there acting very quickly, and she gave us $1 million to buy the facts. It was, I think, for sale for what, Monty, 1.7? 1.3, and we had by that time built up enough money, the $300,000, that we could put our own museum money in, and we got it. And so I wanted to, I think at this point, show you. This is just off the press a week ago. So here we are. This is the front of the building. Did you see this book yet, Mary?
Yes.
Okay, I showed it the other day, didn't I? Okay. And this is the back view of it. And we're very proud that we're now One More Center. We used to be 700 Brookside. Well, the front is not on the front of the building is on the side now. And so it's One More Center. So Monty, I have to tell you, has taken, I say 6,000 photos of the building, of the construction since we turned the first shovel over on the whole thing. And so we just finished this about 2 weeks ago. How many here have done one of these Shutterfly books? You get on the computer. So you're familiar with loading your pictures on there, and then how they make it easy. You just slide wherever you want to design your own book. And we've done several of these, but it's hard to work with 6,000 photos. So over the 2.5-year period, Monty has, every week or so, sent the photos he took that week, some of the best ones, to our board. We have 19-member board now. Okay, so you just send them out, because then these board people can see the construction that was actually taking place. And as I've been reading through and proofreading this, it's astounding. It is astounding what 2.5 years has done to build this building. Who has seen the outside of the building in Redlands? You've gone down there, okay? None of you have driven by it? Okay. The object was to get the exterior done first. We had a building plan. We have this much money, we can do this and this and this. Should we get the exterior going first so people can see it, and then they'll help us raise the last money that we need? And that was the final thing. So that the pavilion, which is a separate building on the west side, is planned. This is not planned as a museum. It's planned as a social gathering place also for Redlands, that you can rent, that people can use, that you can have weddings in the pavilion, that you can bring in money to help us operate it. Because you have to realize we're working with the library board, with all their ideas, and not so much the city. The city is going to soon weigh in on our project, and we have to have all our ducks in a row on this whole thing. So our concern now, and I'm kind of drawing to a close, although I'd love to show you a little bit on this book. Here, let me say this. We purchased only one copy so that we could actually read it, see where the mistakes are. And you can go back and order other copies, and hopefully there'll be a sale and you won't have to do it. We spent the extra money to do this. Normally you can get one done for your family of 20 pages for about $70, $80, or if they've got a good sale, maybe, or smaller copy you can do. I'll tell you, this costs $440, this one book, because every page over 20 you have to pay for. But we wanted to do it. We wanted to document, because when we went to see what went into the Fax building, and it was built in 56, mid-century modern. We only found 2 photos in the newspapers showing the construction of that building. And I think it was because it's very difficult to take a photo, develop it, put it on a metal plate and run it. But here, you're flooded with these photos now. And so back to his 6,000. He had sent 900 over 2.5 years, a dozen a week to the board so that they could see the construction. So he had the best ones down to 900. Then he says, okay, they will give you 111 pages. That's how many you get in this book. So we can put 300 in there. So that's what we did. We narrowed it, and then it was a fun project. We sat and did it. I did want to show you the next to the last page. On the property, the only thing that was left when we took over was a postal box. And we said to the construction people, just keep moving that box around. So Monty ended up with 18 photos, and this is Mr. Box. And sometimes they was on next to this wall, or sometimes they tipped it on its side and put plywood and used it as a table. So the kids get a big kick out of Mr. Box and where it ended up. And where it's going to end up finally, I don't know. It's sitting out there by the Johns right now. Anyway, it's been a lot of fun to do that. I think I want to close with some thoughts, and maybe we could have a discussion now, because I see the 3 entities that you work with here at your museum. Our concerns now are, we will keep our 501c3 Redlands Historical Museum Association doing business as Museum of Redlands. It's a long title, okay? We figured that we needed the short Museum of Redlands. So we still have our board controlling this. So what's gonna be our responsibility in a year when we finally get the inside done and up and running? We think certainly fundraising. It's going to be eternally on our backs to raise funds to keep this building going. will we or will the library be in charge of the docent program? Because this is a big museum, and we're gonna have people explain what's there. Will the library or will our governing board be the ones that will be planning your monthly programs like you have? Because you just need that for your membership to stir interest in there. And up to now, of course, we've been doing all the programs for it, and we think we should continue that. I also think it's interesting, and I don't know if you're at this stage, you're probably glad for anybody who wants to serve on your board. But we're at the stage where we're kind of like these big boards for like family service and all of these in Redlands. And you have to look at your board makeup. How many people do you want? 19 seems to be about what we need to do the work. But do you have somebody who knows finance? Do you have somebody who knows legal things? Do you have somebody who has your historic background that you're worried about making sure that you're not missing something? Do you have money? You know, people with money help you out a lot. You can think of all the other things, like you need somebody like women like I am, and the men do it too, who really want to get in there and work, who will be your secretary, right? I mean, you get somebody who's wealthy, not used to taking notes for meetings, so you need all kinds of things that are going to make your boards very successful. And these days, you want an ethnic balance too. That's very important. Really is important to bring all ideas into what you're doing. Another thing is, are we renters of the property? We're going to turn this to the city of Redlands. They're going to have it turnkey perfect before they're going to accept it. We know that. Everything has to be done on it. But what kind of staff is it going to take for us to run this museum? You know, and right now, and I'm just about done on this, our heritage room, we work out of our heritage room. That's been the center of what we do. So if you give something to the museum, you're giving it to the library heritage room for showing in the museum. It's just, we're like that. And so Nathan Gonzalez has been head of the heritage room with Maria Carrillo, two wonderful people to work with, and they're trying to help design while these exhibits are going. And I will close with, two things I want to suggest to you. I don't know if you need fundraisers. Did you ever do a deck of cards?
It's on our list.
Okay, you might want to look at, this is not a full deck because we actually ordered 500 of these, and they sold so quickly in Redlands that we ordered another 500 of a different color, and then another, and so we have no more. But this was left out, and one of the kids took one or two of the cards, so it's not a complete deck. But it's wonderful because we have all the historic, you need to look at this as a fundraiser. They're not hard to do.
How much?
I'm sorry?
How much do you market this for?
Well, I want to tell you that we market them at just $10 a deck, and our costs were something that went to $4 monthly. So they went very fast, but then when we started to run out, we put them up to 15, and they were still buying them. So I would think today that you would probably want to do it at 15, but I brought this as a suggestion because Yucaipa people won't buy Redlands cards, and probably Redlands won't buy Yucaipa, so you can just take a look. But look closely at the photos, because here again, we work closely with Nathan in the Heritage Room, because he has access to every historical picture in town. Somebody coming from outside couldn't really do that, but since we're all working this thing together, it was a nice fundraiser. The other thing that I wanted to show you is, each one of you need to be out there marketing your museum. Everybody you talk to say, have you been here? You need to come and see it, and so forth. So I've been working with the quilters in Redlands on another project, and come to find out one of the quilters was a teacher at Mentone. And one of the things, we got money from Jack Brown, the Cedar Brothers people, if we would have a hometown heroes area. Now, when you get money, you don't ever promise that you're going to do something, but this was a substantial gift, and certainly Heroes of Redlands would be a topic that we would really want to. Jack was really interested in military heroes too. So we've agreed that we will have an exhibit. So somehow I got in a conversation with this teacher. She said, well, we did a Heroes of Redlands project in 4th grade, and Bernice has done quilting projects in the schools too, and she's not seen this quilt, which I just got this morning, because a woman, she says, I'll bring it and show it to you at the meeting, so. Bernice, come hold it, I know. So the important thing is, the woman says, you could take this now if you want. Well, the secret is you never say no, you take it right away. Oh, okay. Let's go.
Oh, wow.
So I'm just delighted
Bobby
because,
Hodges, I grew up with Bobby.
yeah, I know you know these people on here, and I know Nathan will love it because I know he's working on Hometown Heroes for the exhibits, you know, keep rotating that sort of thing. But I know these people too, and I think she must have done it for her class. And this woman here, you know, the movie How to Make an American Quilt was filmed in Redlands.
Yes.
Well, this is Patty McCormick, who was the ringleader for it. She made all the quilts for the picture. So we have a lot of documentation on making that film. So it's really going to be neat. Of course, Larry Burgess is there, and Charlotte Huck is the aunt of Larry's wife, Char.
Right.
So nobody's seen it, but you were the first ones to see it. But the fact that she says you can have it for the museum, I said, I'll take it.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
We play it over here. You can get it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So, I think we'll quit. I talked too long, but do you have any questions? It won't be done until at least near the end of '24. Because as Monty, his photos lately, just to get the electricity in there and all the things hooked up for where your TV screens are gonna go and the money on that. So it's gonna take a little bit more fundraising, but we do have the paver program, and I don't want you to faint, but the papers are $2,500, but they're lovely, they're just really beautiful. And I wish you could get down there. Actually, mid-October, they're going to do a $2 million check gift to us. So that's gonna be, just help us a little bit further on this, the presentation of that. So, nothing's changing on the outside because it's beautiful, the plants are going, we've got oranges on the trees, it's just something, I will say this, there was a lot of discussion on what kind of a building to put up, and not everybody was really happy with this new iconic building for Redlands. It wasn't a Queen Anne house, it wasn't a mission library, it wasn't a mid-century modern anymore. It's this modern building which is making a statement, this is what our generation needs and wants for Redlands. So if you have any questions about comparing things, I probably could learn more from you running a museum, but this is what we've been working. One thing I remember to say, in that survey of all these museums that we went to, almost all of them, on average, took 25 years from start to finish. And you know something, we're now in our 25th year.
Oh, wow.
From when we started in 97, so almost there. So anyway, I thank you for asking me. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer. Yes.
No, I don't think you ever said the amount of money that we have received from the community. It's been tremendous. We have spent $20 million so far on this building, and it's been all donated from individuals up to this point. Now, we're getting a few grants, that $2 million that Nelda just mentioned, but up to this time, it's been all civilian gifts from the community. Really, really lucky.
So
We need about $4 million to finish it, and we've got 2 of that coming in as a grant. So we're really pretty proud of the building. You might wonder, why did we go so spectacular? And right from the very get-go, we told the architects we wanted this building to be historically certified. So if we bring in traveling exhibits and there's many out there, from say the Smithsonian, you wanna have an exhibit from the Smithsonian, you've gotta be certified. And you want King Tut to be as part of one-year displays on some month, you gotta be certified. So we went for the full thing.
The full Monty.
Full Monty.
I'll just say that just one item. the air conditioning, heating, air conditioning, the main unit cost $1 million just for the air conditioning.
So you need to come visit when we get open.
Now, this, right in that corner, my son, who's now, what is he, 55, too old. But when I brought him in here, he was like 8, and my daughter was 6. And we stood in a long line from the door, and very slowly worked our way over, because Dr. Mousley had secured the moon rock.
Oh.
And that reminded me of it, and it was on a really nice display. And I've never forgotten it, it's when he still had his seashells and rocks and geodes and all that in here.
So what happened to the moon rock?
He went back to NASA or wherever he,
Oh.
yeah, it was a display he secured for about a couple months, I think. Of course, my kids said, looks like a rock. That was very interesting.
Yeah. Well, the secret of museums, I think, is how do you keep your community wanting to come back? That is the big question. So we're all working for ideas on that.
Two or three of our biggest demonstrations. Candy, of course, with her rehabbing wild animals, got Alex Paredes from Redlands to bring his hawks in, and it was packed. We couldn't. I mean, the fire marshal would have hated it. We were packed. It was a great presentation. But the best thing about it was people saw that this was not a pet and not a hobby. We both done rehab, and they're not pets, they're wild animals, but he taught it that way in that, you know, you have to put all this work into it and babysit this bird all the time and make it happy, but the place was packed and children on the floor. And then Bob and I did a, what the heck is it, with a bunch of crazy artifacts that no one knew what they were, but we had the best time. It was hilarious, and so it's weird.
I think if you think broadly of things that are gonna bring the public in and use it, it's a good meeting space. Redlands would love a meeting space like
Yeah,
this.
and we left the tables up because we've been doing, Candy bought us a popcorn machine. We didn't get it out today, but people like to sit here, take notes, and drink their coffee, and eat their goodies. So normally we would have chairs in rows, so like that.
So,
You know, you talked about local contributions to secure what you've done so far. Have you or did you consider doing any grant writing or?
Monty, you wanna talk about that? Why we didn't?
We purposely did not do that.
Yeah, yet.
And it was cheaper for us not to have any government type money while we're doing the part of the construction that was very labor intensive. And the reason is that if we had taken government money, then we would, in paying our contractors and all the workers, we would have had to go the
Prevailing wage.
Prevailing wage, got it right. And which is roughly, depending on what the, whether you're a plumber or whatever you're doing, it's about sometimes 40% higher. So what it cost, we get $1 million in, and what it cost us for the rest of the project, many times over that. So didn't want money from the government because of the prevailing wage.
Wow.
So now we're at the end, just about what we're paying for now are some of the higher paid people anyway, so it really doesn't make much difference. So we're paying prevailing wage even though we didn't have grants for this.
Now, where are you marketing the cards?
Well, we don't have any now. In fact, now that Monty's finished the book, I never let him rest. I say, we need to get busy and find where the flash drive is that we had all those cards on and revise it and get another set because there's more people living in Redlands now who don't have these cards, so.
I live up here, but I would buy it because I was born and raised there. And she told us about it, and I thought that was a great idea.
Well, let me just say this before you talk. We got the idea when we visited the Hammett Museum. Monty's picked him up there and he says, well, this would be a good idea. And so with his computer expertise, we were able to do it, so.
Well,
Yeah.
we did the Christmas cards from the prints that we got from the old news mirrors that were in the 30s. They're color pages, full-size pages, and the city turned, with what we took off of those, we turned them into Christmas cards, and then the city took them and made banners for Christmas time to put on the streets. I mean, they're absolutely priceless.
That's an idea for us, Monty, you could make some Christmas cards, not this year.
They just sold out like crazy. Of course, after the initial hit, that first year and a half, then it slowed down, so we gotta re-go there again.
Yeah,
But the cards were the next thing on the list.
well, take a look at those,
I
they were a success for us. So,
That's me.
okay, thank you very much.
I love these because they're so old.
Oh, wow.
Yucaipa News, it's a real, headline, or front page.
It's got, it says it's Yucaipa News, and it has the date on most of them.
So did you sell this whole thing?
No, these we take to our, if we go to an event downtown,
Oh, okay.
we'll hang these around, and then the cards are regular cards in a box, and we sell them. Every year people say, you can bring the cards back.
So how many different designs on cards?
6?
So I think we have 6 or 7.
Yeah, they're all different.
Okay, what did you charge a piece for them?
Well, we had, if we do posters, we'll probably do, I'm thinking $10 a pop, depending on what it is for us to print them.
Okay.
We just mounted these so that we could put them on display around Christmas time, but the cards, I think we were selling them for $19.95 for.
Something like that.
Yeah, here's the packaging on those, and there's an assortment of 2 each,
Yeah.
and,
$19.99. You're
and
right.
it's,
Good.
it
So
says
how
on the
many
back,
cards in the box then? 8?
are there 14?
Something like that.
I think it's
Yeah.
about 14.
So there's a couple of each.
And on the back,
There's
it
Santa,
tells you,
I love that.
Oh,
You
these
can
are
look
good.
at these, yeah, they're very nice.
on the back, it tells you what they are and
They're so good.
that they're from originals.
Wow.
And, there's our little,
So that's one of those things going through the
Can you,
newspapers.
can you do the Vanna White and,
So, was this an actual page from the?
yes, the front page.
I was searching through our boxes of archived newspapers back here, and when I found those, I went, oh! And it was just
1925.
one a year, and I started going through all the boxes, looking for all the ones I could find. And I know other newspapers do that also, I've seen it. So, I don't know whether the facts did them back then or not.
We'll have to do some research, okay?
There you go. Well, we have copied Redlands a little.
Well, this is a good idea.
Candy's a wizard at this, and we have good friends in Redlands. You know you're from Yucaipa if you ever went to the Yucaipa Theater. And we had a theater, Candy went there. I don't think anybody else in here did. Tom did.
I think my church was in there after.
I went to a dance class in there years later. But it's down on California, it doesn't really have a theater. But we did these, and she had several, the Women's Club, which is really historic, a big sign that was on the hill for a long time, and what was this other one? But we took that from Redlands, because they said, you know you're from Redlands if you went to the Taquatilla, and I live down the street from it, and I practically lived there. Women's Club, the sign, and then Apple Festival, each year the Apple, which is long ago, but that's a great picture. So you can look at these
The
if you
bizarre
like.
thing, out of all those, the 4 designs that we did for last year, we're gonna do 4 new designs this year.
Yeah.
But the 4 designs from last year, the one that I thought would be the best sellers, the one that was the best seller, and we can't keep in, is the old sign that was down by the freeway that gives the population of Yucaipa that.
Welcome to Yucaipa Valley. And I do remember that sign, but what was the big deal? Let's see,
But we're going to, this year, we're going to go.
12,500.
rodeo.
It's like 50,000, right? What are we now? But yeah, and the women's club came about, all the women's club wanted to know, but this did sell. That's the sign. Probably because everybody used to blink at it with their BB gun or something, I don't know, you know?
So we will have a museum store, and that's the, you don't call it a gift shop or anything, you call them a museum store.
There you
It's
go.
a special construction inside the museum. And the thing is, do you hire somebody who will go after products like this? We have a lot of competition in Redlands selling this sort of thing. You know, the visitor center sells it and everybody has something, so to come up with a new product, but I haven't necessarily seen the Christmas cards, but I should tell you this, you know our most famous artist is Janet Edwards with all her pictures, and she's now in a care home in Highland, so the son has cleared the house and dispensed with the things. So he delivered, how many, 12 boxes of her cards
Just gorgeous.
for us to sell. He gave it to us for, you know, everybody buys her cards. So for forever, we can sell these cards. There are no envelopes with them, so we're gonna have to invest in those. So,
Here's you have oranges, we have, apples, and of course, we lean hard on Oak Glen, because that's our little baby sister up on the mountain. Candy lives there, and we love Oak Glen. They do a great job with their sales, but people don't know, they planted apples here. Apples, walnuts, peaches, a lot, and it was perfect, and then it started getting warmer. Where have we heard that before? And the coddling moth was a terrible thing, so they decided to move up in elevation, and that's how we ended up at Oak Glen with the apples.
who makes these?
I have
A company?
my
Company is it?
friend Debbie Holly. And,
Mountain Boy.
she actually makes product for the Redlands, the little store in Redlands on
The visitor
the
center.
visitors,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, she's great, and
She's-
we have a lot of apple,
The
labels.
magnets, yeah. No, right.
Yeah.
Nelda, I would buy, you said only, you know, it would be like the Redlands cards, just for Redlands. I was born in Redlands. I've been here my whole life.
So I should come up and market them here.
You should, because I guarantee you, we would sell Redlands and Yucaipa up here, both.
Oh,
So when we
Okay.
get more, if you want to put them in here,
okay.
And we just started opening that often because we're short-staffed, and so it's starting over again. We're starting, trying to build. But yeah, we take this kind of thing with us to the events in town. We did not do the Fall Fest this year, because everybody's sick and we were so measly small group. But with the, art festival or the music and art festival in May is a great seller, and we take all this with us. People love it, they love the old-fashioned toys Candy's got, and all these, you know, people love this.
We hope we're gonna get somebody in charge of our store. Walter, you had a,
My question is, with all the museums you visited and the experience you're gonna be facing as you open the door, what's the best way the board thinks to attract out-of-towners to find the museum, to be interested in it, to come?
I'm gonna ask them that. That's a good
That's a good
question.
question.
How do we market our museum out of town?
Out of town, yeah. Obviously, the digital world is a big factor.
Well, I would go for an article personally in the LA Times, because our architect is known down in LA, and the same architect that we chose to do our library, our museum, had completed the Riverside. If you've done down to their brand new museum, or library, it's very modern looking and all, and so, yeah, maybe we could get an LA Times article. Would that be nice?
Sure, the newspaper, yeah, you and I are all
Thank you.
attracted to the newspaper.
I'm gonna go back and tell them that, Paul.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, hey,
Thank you so
appreciate it.
much, thank you so much. Please feel free to fill your face again,